Okay, hey guys, we're here with Coach Lee Roper. He is the assistant coach at the University of Northern Iowa. And we're going to talk to him today about his relationship with Taylor Lujan.
First off, I'm a little bit offended that you introduced me as the coach at Northern Iowa and not your husband. So since you've taken this job, I went from being Lee Roper, the wrestling guy, to Becca Roper's husband. So that's been a new experience, but something I'm really proud of. So man, my experience with Taylor, man, it's gone a long time. I've had a really unique experience with him. Not very many people get to follow a guy through the course of their wrestling career, as long as I have with Taylor, from middle school age up through high school, and then very lucky that I got to follow him into college and continue that process too. So one of the biggest blessings of my life has been Taylor Lujan, and sitting in the corner for, man, I don't even know how many matches and how many practices I've been with that guy.
So if you had to describe your relationship to somebody with Taylor, and pretending I'm not your wife and I don't know the background of it, what would you use to describe y'all's relationship?
Challenging is the first thing that comes to mind, because I've been around Taylor so long and I admire him so much that, man, he almost becomes family in a way. And really one of the things I've learned from him is the boundaries you have to set up to keep the athlete-coach relationship in the right perspective or the right spot. Because as you get closer, you do cross those lines and you start worrying about things as a coach you necessarily shouldn't worry about quite as much, because it's my job right now to help Taylor reach his wrestling goals. And I have to keep that in mind. As much as I care about him and I want him to be happy, I also have to put him in uncomfortable situations too. So as you start to care about somebody more, it really made me understand that I have to make sure I keep that coach-athlete relationship in the right order, because, man, those lines started to blur a little bit. And there'll be one day where Taylor and I are really good friends. We're really close, and he'll be a guy that's in my life forever. But still to this day, I'm his wrestling coach. And I have to remember I have responsibilities that I have to put ahead of, like Jacob Holschlag, who's one of his really close friends. And I have to make sure I keep those in order. So that's probably the main thing I've learned about him. So go back to that word, challenging. That's probably how I would describe the relationship. There's a lot of facets to it. And just keeping the priorities in order has been very difficult, but a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about myself coaching him.
So you say you've learned a lot about yourself through coaching Taylor. Is that one of your favorite things that you've gained from coaching somebody for this long amount of time?
I mean, there's been so much, man. I could dump a whole Taylor Lujan bucket out. I really could talk about that and what I've learned from it for an hour, and the experiences we've had. Man, so many. Man, even sitting thinking about it now, I'm just going through this roller coaster of so many highs and so many lows. Man, you really do learn a lot about yourself, and that a little bit of my philosophy on life, which you know too, that really the highs and lows of life are where you learn a lot about yourself. Because of the challenges you have to overcome, you might find out that there's something inside of you that you didn't know was there. The same way it goes with success. You reach a certain point in your coaching career, athletic career, you find out that you'll have struggles with something you might didn't know existed. So, man, just going through that roller coaster with Taylor, man, I've really done a lot of reflecting. And two, as you move along, you keep having to jump to another level. And when you jump to that new level, so it first off started with Taylor wanting to place at Tulsa Nationals, right? It's the first set of goals you tackle with an athlete, and there's certain things that you have to do as a coach and an athlete and push yourself to a certain level to accomplish that. And then the next set of goals he really talked about was wanting to be four-time state champion in high school, and there's a certain amount of dedication that you have to get into, and it has to become a little bit more of a lifestyle for both of you. And then he really pushed past that, and he started wanting to be the #1 guy in the country. And then there's another level of mental game and technique that you have to get to, and then another level of time commitment, getting to know your athlete better. You have to put them through the things that help them reach their highest level, and those are different from the other athletes you coach too. And then moving on into college, that's where you have to get to know their mental game. And sure, we'll talk about it a little bit, but that first year coaching Taylor in college, it was really tough, because part of college is becoming your own man, so to speak. And he and I had been around each other so long that I didn't want to influence what he wanted to do with his college career. I realized it was a unique situation moving from being club coach to his college coach. So almost ignored him in a way that first year, but I really just wanted him to figure out what he wanted his college career to be. And I'd been his coach for so long, maybe Doug fits better with him, maybe Randy fits better with him, maybe Mark Schwab fit better with him his freshman year when Mark was around. Later on, B-Rob did a good bit of work with Taylor. So I really wanted him to make his own decisions. And I didn't want it to be predicated on me. And in a roundabout way to get to, man, probably the number one thing that I've learned from him is his goals aren't mine. And the longer I've coached him, the less I've wanted to be a part of it. And it's a hard thing to describe because, I mean, I've got that guy's back no matter what, but I don't want any of his wrestling goals to be about me. I want him to be about what he wants. And really had to put my money where my mouth was that first year and kind of let him find his own way. And it was tough to watch a dude I really care about struggle a little bit. But then he found his way and ended up, and selfishly, I was really happy that it came back around. He's like, hey, I really want you to keep investing in me and put a lot of time into me. So that made me feel good because I love the man he is and enjoy being around him a lot.
Yeah, I got to witness that personally.
Yeah. You got to be the person I vented to a lot because it was tough. I had to bottle up a lot of emotion. So you got the brunt of that, and I apologize for that tough first year.
No, that's okay. Because it ended up working out really beautifully. And the second year, I want you to kind of describe the flow that y'all got into, because there was like a moment when you guys hit a flow and it was easing into college, and you could see that you guys hit it. What was that like?
Well, I think we were able to get into it pretty easily because I had that year of just observing him and knew who Taylor was before college and saw who he was becoming at college. So started thinking about different ways that I had to coach him. And then that led me down to the thought of, I can't coach him like a kid anymore. Not that he was a kid in high school, but he's really becoming a man in college. So I have to give him more ownership and more freedom and almost take my hands off the wheel a little bit more and let him make his choices more. And I just, especially with males, which is the majority of the coaching experience I have, you start hitting that 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old. Man, there's a lot of rebellion inside of you. I can even think back to my days being that, and you're the smartest person on the planet, even though you're probably the dumbest you ever are in your life, you think you are. So, man, you had to really let him find his own ways and just be there when he turns to you and says help or ask questions. So it's more passive coaching, to where when I was his club coach, it was way more, hey, these are the steps we're going to take. I'm not going to give you much choice in it. I know a lot more than you do about this. Follow along. So then, this is the way I'll describe it. And when I was his club coach through middle school and high school, I was leading a lot. And then when he got to college, he's leading a lot. So he was following me before, and then I was following him after, and just there to support. So really seeing how the job can change as guys get older really just taught me a lot about not really the nuts and bolts of coaching, but the philosophy behind it and how you have to grow and let these guys grow as time moves on and they become older.
Would you say that, because you're telling me a ton of things that you learned, would you say over the years, because you've gotten to coach Taylor longer than anybody else, would you say that you've learned the most as far as coaching and growing and about yourself from your relationship with coaching Taylor?
That's a really difficult question. I mean, it really is even hard to remember, 12 years now of lessons. But I mean, the obvious answer is probably. It probably is because of how long, but I was around Jake Hodges a long time too. And then there's certain guys, like I think Griffin Higginbotham, going back, he taught me a lot, because Griff was, use the example with Hodges. Hodges is like, he's like Doug. I'm going to go after it as hard as I can, put the blinders on, run through the brick wall. And Griff wasn't like that. Griff was, which really kind of aggravated me at first, way more cerebral in his approach. He worked hard in a different way. He worked more hard mentally about the sport, understanding things, which came out in his wrestling style too. So Chandler Pike's another one I learned a lot from. That's a tough question, because you learn so much from so many different guys. And like Jacob Holschlag's running through my mind right now, and how much I've learned from him. So I would say, just because I've been around Taylor so long, probably from the time standpoint, him and Hodges probably are the guys, but just from the sake that I've been around him for so many years and through so many different levels, and coaching a guy from teenage to young man to grown man is, yeah, probably them, I would say.
Okay, so on that note, can you tell me one of your favorite, and I know you've got a lot of favorites and you might not be able to pick one, but one of your top 3 moments that you've had with Taylor as a coach? And it doesn't have to be a wrestling moment, it can be a life moment.
It's going to seem strange that this is my favorite moment, and there's some selfishness behind it too, but take it for what it's worth. This is what came to mind, so I'm going to run with it. It was probably in one of the toughest moments of his wrestling career. He had just lost to Jacoby Smith, round of 12 at NCAA's. And Taylor's, you don't see a lot of emotion out of him. There's a lot of emotion there, but he's very private with it. He doesn't like being emotional around other people. But it was just one of those times that I knew he wanted me with him. In a pretty sad, frustrating, angry, it's hard to put words on those emotions from tough losses in wrestling, because it's a lot of things. And it's just, I think back to my own, and it's just darkness. It's just a dark time. And the reason I say it's one of my favorite moments is, and one of the things that calls you to be a coach, and for people that are in the coaching profession and called to it, you want to help. It's an act of service. And I mean, my role models in coaching and who've influenced it, like probably the biggest ones are Doug and my dad. And those are 2 of the most selfless people I know. They didn't live their life for themselves, they lived it for other people. And it's one of the times I feel like I've been able to help Taylor the most. That I could be that shoulder to cry on, the foundation, the scaffold, just there for him. And it's one of the times I felt like I was most effective. And from being around him, I felt like I knew what he needed to hear and was able to deliver that. And the conversations you have after, man, it makes you feel good when he tells you man, you really helped me in a tough time. And for somebody you care about, when you can help them in one of the tougher times in their life, got a lot of selfish pride in that. So even though it was a very sad moment for both of us, it's probably one of my favorites. And I could pull some really happy ones out of the bucket too, but that's probably one of the things that stands out the most.
Do you think that that moment was a defining moment for Taylor in his wrestling?
That's a tough question to ask from an external perspective. Did I see a lot of different things? I didn't see much different out of him. He made some tougher choices. He focused on perfecting smaller details, whether it was technique or his diet or areas of his life. He focused on some smaller things, but turning point, I think that's something you can only answer about yourself. Especially, man, when no one's around and it's after those dark times and you're doing some reflecting on it, sometimes it's even tough to put into words the lessons you learn. And this is just speaking from my own experience through some tough times in my life. So I really can't answer that for him. I'd just be guessing. Did I see a whole lot different out of him as far as what happens on the mat? Not really a ton. He was focused on smaller details, like I said, but Taylor's been a great wrestler for a long time. So I don't know if it was a defining moment for him wrestling or not. That's a question Taylor'd have to answer.
Okay. So that's fair. I can understand that. Now, we talked about one of your favorite moments, and even though it wasn't necessarily a happy accomplishment, can you tell me about one of the hardest moments that you've had to go through with him?
Probably really just that whole freshman year, his redshirt year at UNI, just kind of letting him go off on his own. And I know I don't want to like diminish or even exaggerate the love you have for your wrestler compared to your own kids, but hearing my dad talk about some of the scary moments of being a parent when you realize that, whoa, my son is making his own choices and I've done the best I can with him, but man, this is his own life, because you get invested. Even though you try and keep the perspective of this is his wrestling career and I'm just a piece of it, you do get invested. And realizing that year of just observing and not being day to day in his ear, guiding him, mentoring him, like, man, what if he decides he don't want to do this anymore? What if he decides he wants to go another. I mean, what if he chooses another coach that I'm not the best guy for him, man? So there was a lot of emotion wrapped up in that, and man, had to probably help me get a handle on my ego more than anything else, because man, you go back and you take a step back and realize, oh, this really isn't about me. I have my own pursuit in the sport that are my accomplishments and my goals, but Taylor's not a part of those, just like I'm not a part of his. I'm just help along the way. I'm just guidance, and we all have those people, some big, some small, but really probably that's probably got to be it, that whole freshman year. And because really a lot of the failures that we both had, whether I made bad decisions for him or he didn't accomplish what he wanted to, and you learn and grow out of those. And in a weird way, for me, they become some proud moments, some good moments. So the hard times was when just realizing he might go a different way, and the sadness that I would have, or the disappointment I would have in myself that I didn't get him where I wanted to go. So answering some of those questions, being honest with myself, probably had to be the toughest times.
I understand that. That first year was very, very rough. One of my personal top 3 favorite moments with Taylor was his redshirt freshman year or redshirt sophomore year. It was his first year wrestling, starting at UNI, and he won the MAC, and that was a really awesome moment. It was at UNI, so it was cool that it was, you know, in town, and he wrestled really well, and that was a fun memory and a fun match to witness.
Yeah, I've got a lot of those big moment matches with Taylor, and he's done a lot in this sport, and you coach a long time and don't get to be around a guy, not just the quality of man he is, but a guy that good at wrestling, and he's really good at this sport.
Yes, he is, and he's also a good representation for this sport. He doesn't wrestle to be the best. He wrestles because he loves it, and you can see that. You can tell that. Not that I'm saying he doesn't wrestle to try and be good, but he does it because he loves it, and you can tell.
Yeah, he's definitely developed his own philosophy about what he believes in, and it's fun to see him grow in that too. And it's been a great journey with the guy, and just, man, awesome family. It's just really kind of going down memory lane with here, realizing the impact that all of the Lujans have had on me, and not just the impact they've had in me, but just the confidence it gives you too, the belief they've had. Because his dad is a really good wrestler and a really good wrestling coach, and the fact that he just kind of entrusted Cliff and I to guide this guy and really took his hands off of him a lot, man. That's one, it puts some pressure on you to do a good job and took it very seriously, but also builds confidence, and that a guy that knows the sport sees it and goes, this is the right place for my son.
And Taylor's dad was a Division I wrestler himself, correct? Yeah, so that had to be some pressure there.
And Eric's one of those guys, you see him, he's probably still got a few takedowns left in him on some pretty good guys. He's a tough old nut.
Oh yeah, I would put somebody on it. So is there anything else that you think is imperative to describing the long relationship you've had with Taylor that you want to share with us?
No, I just very fortunate and lucky that I've had this experience. Not very many people get to do it, and I know, and I don't want to diminish the other people that have had a huge impact in my coaching career, but I know I wouldn't be the coach I am without Taylor. And just the different phases of life we've gone through together, the different challenges and the successes we've had, and I know there's going to be more to come too. He's not done scrapping yet too. And then two, looking on, I'm really looking forward into our relationship changing to where I don't have to be Coach Roper anymore, and I just get to be Lee in his life. And I'm looking forward to that too, and seeing what he does off the wrestling mat, pursuing a career maybe that's outside of wrestling. I don't know, when he has his own family one day. Just really looking forward to seeing what Taylor does. And along with just like a lot of guys you coach, man, you know there's going to be greatness in his life. Can't wait to see what he does.
I can't wait either. Thank you so much, babe. My husband, Lee.